Hello, and welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name is Cole, and with me, as always, is Gavin. Gavin, say hello to the people.
What's up, people? Gavin's here. Thank you for having me, Cole.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also are joined with Nicole Pape, who is, of course, of Embellisher fame. And I think the best way to start is, Nicole, tell us how you came into this industry and how it evolved into Embellisher.
My gosh, I have a really long story, so I'm going to try and shorten it up for you. But I started in the industry when I was about 19 years old down in San Diego, reclaiming screens all day long for a Reebok affiliate on the border of California and Mexico. And so it was really cool. I would get to see all of the armored vehicles every day go, load up all of the dye lot that they needed to go take down across the border, come back in the afternoon with everything dyed so we can print for the NFL, NBA, tons of sports licensing is where I started. And every day I would reclaim screens and sit there and be like, this is cool, while I was going to school at UCSD for art. But I kind of really liked what the guys were doing. And I noticed that these guys were doing all this stuff with paint and screens. And, I wasn't quite familiar with the whole methodology of screen printing at that moment. And so they started teaching me how to screen print and put me on a milk crate, because I'm 4'11", so I could actually have some leverage over the squeegee and pull. And so I really got my feet wet on a Riley Hopkins six color, I think it was a 6-color 8 station back in the day. And it was great. I kind of fell in love right away. I fell in love with the idea of being able to layer the artwork, this artwork that I'm studying in school for years, Renaissance and, modern and impressionistic and all of the different types of art that I was studying. And it really resonated with me a lot that there was something tactile that I could do, because I'm not a very good artist, and I would love to be an artist, but I just don't have that talent. But I do know how to pull a squeegee. So I started printing, and from there, I kind of just found myself into opening my own business of a silkscreen shop one day. I had moved to downtown LA. I got a really cool loft. I moved all of my equipment into this loft. I found my equipment on Craigslist, bartered for it with a guy. He wanted 10 grand for this entire Riley Hopkins shop with a Raynor exposure unit, a little buddy dryer. And I just remember being like, this is it. Like, I need this setup, but I don't have 10 grand for this guy. I had 5 grand. And so I drove 3 hours north of where I live. And I went to meet him, and I had told him hey, I don't have all the funds, but maybe I could pull a piece, of the equipment or just the press. And after talking to him for 20 minutes, the guy's like, you just have to have everything. Just take it all, load it all up, give me what you got, and start your business, girl. And so I started a business, and I called it Production 22. And in downtown Los Angeles, production, anything that's named production, is usually for the film and movie industry. So the phone calls I was getting were for booms and for cameras and for things that I had never heard of. But I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, I don't have a camera for your movie, but I do. We're a screen printer over here, and we screen print garments. And then they'd be like, oh my God, we need merch for something. So I started getting customers like HBO, Cinemax, Playboy. I kind of went into a very interesting LA niche, I would guess, and really kind of started to get a little downtown Los Angeles, notoriety and what I was doing. This girl's printing up in her loft. Have you heard of her? We're seeing people come over, just random stuff was going on. And then I found myself at Ryanette trying to buy some supplies in Los Angeles, and they needed somebody. They were looking to hire, and I thought well, this could be a really cool way for me to make some part-time, money and try and figure out more of this industry. And so I got a job there, and I actually became the manager of the downtown Los Angeles location that they had, which closed years later, but probably 2009. And then from there, honestly, the trajectory is just shop after shop. I'm going from there to I worked for a porn star. I actually worked for her to screen print all of her merch and all of these really nice pillows that were in Nordstrom's and Kitson. And we had like a whole fashion line that we were doing for her. And I was also screen printing very like itty bitty, like inappropriate parts on things. So it would be like really great when I had to do a press check with an eye loop and I'd be like, does this look right to you? Because I don't know what you look like, but does that look right to you? Like, and so yeah, like I have a really weird background and stuff like that. And then I got pulled into a very large commercial contractor in the Bay Area in San Francisco. I became a managing partner pretty quickly. We went from 6 million in revenue to 12.9 million in revenue in a very short window of time. We had 14 automatic presses, all M&Rs. We had 108 heads of Barradin, a couple SWFs in there. And we had 2 facilities and 150 employees. So I did that. And all of that was the corporate tech market that I was servicing. So Instagram, Facebook, Google, Salesforce all have campuses in the Bay Area. And all of those campuses take employee merch, employee gear like daily. So we would actually have courier trucks come and pick up, and we would ship out every day to these corporate tech giants, Oracle, all that stuff. Or we were on the Nike, Adidas, Hot Market, Fanatic side. So I had millions and millions of shirts that have been outputted. Every 72 hours, we had to get out 22,874 shirts for the Golden State Warriors with 3 print locations on it every 72 hours during playoffs. So anytime you guys see playoffs and you see those freebie shirts that are happening during the NBA season, there is a shop in the nation, maybe multiple shops, but sometimes it's just one shop. And ours was the one for Golden State Warriors. And we would do that and run 3 shifts a day and get through it all and, hit our shipped revenue at some point and get going with the team. It was actually a lot of fun. And then 2020 hit, and kind of everything in my life trajectory really changed at that point. I had just had a baby. I have great employees, but they're all asking me what's going to happen next, what's happening in the world. I had no idea. I was stressing myself, of course, going in every day, trying to figure out how I keep the facilities going. And I got an offer at the end of 2020 that I couldn't refuse for a buyout. And so I took it. And I left production. So that was the last time I was in production. When people ask me like, oh, what do you print now? I'm like, I don't print anymore. I've had years of printing. But yeah, from there, I got my real estate license, to be honest with you. I thought I was going to be done with the industry, get out of it, do something different. And I sold about $25 million in home sales in 9 months in Reno, Nevada, which is like, it's actually pretty crazy when you think about it. But I'm not that girl. Like, I was selling like multi-million-dollar homes with great views, but to be honest with you, it didn't feel like me. I had to cover up my tattoos. I really tried to like kind of fit a part that didn't make me feel like that was who I wanted to be. Right. So I got a call and Rock US was looking to hire someone. And I had been out of the industry for a little bit. And so I picked up a role over there as a sales executive and started kind of managing all of their channel partners, learning the distributors, learning how all that works, going to Portugal, learning about, just the supply chain in general, the manufacturing. And that's where I would say Embellisher was born. It was born out of the necessity or a niche that I was seeing in the industry while I was working. Of, hey, I want to upgrade to this new press, but I don't know how unless somebody sells my press, or where am I supposed to sell this? And the rhetoric was just go to Facebook Marketplace and post it there, or go to Digitsmith. Right. And like, sure, if you want something archaic and you need to sift through it for, years on end, maybe you'll find something good. But there was no one that would help somebody like represent it. They don't know what to do. They just want it off their hands. So So I had a client that called and he was like, hey, I got to get rid of this press. Ma'am, I am a rodeo guy. I do the rodeo. I do not print. I don't know why I bought all this stuff. I don't know what to do with it. You sold it to me. Can you help me out of it? And that's where I was like, well, I mean, I guess I could try and float it to somebody else. And I sold it. And so I left Frock, and December of 2022, I started Embellisher, and I started it completely by myself. Didn't know where I was going with it quite yet. I just kind of like had this idea that I could at least, service or help people with this stuff. And I know what I'm talking about. And this is equipment I like and I would buy. So, yeah. And it literally just started kind of taking off, and I had to start hiring people to help me and start building out our services and become more comprehensive and more customer centric, and focused on not just Rock, but other brands too, because people are calling me for cars and MHMs and workhorses all of a sudden, and Anatols. And so I started finding myself in a area where I just started expanding services. And that's, again, really long-winded stuff. So edit whatever you need to here. I'm so sorry.
No, that was incredible, actually.
Boy, that was amazing.
You had multiple positions that people would have just made their career for 30 years. And I love how you basically married being a realtor to equipment, because it's all about showing the property, showing why it's such a great deal, getting other people excited and maximizing value for the seller. And you basically were the first person to apply that to our industry, and it seems to be working incredibly well.
Well, thank you. And the thing that I wanted to apply from that experience I had was I really wanted to have a safe space for people, because I have to represent both buyer and seller in the equation. And I've had to do that before as a realtor. And it's really important that you hear people and that things are pretty black and white, so they understand both sides or what they need to understand, and that all of the finances are held securely in an escrow account. So we do the same thing as if you were buying a house. We don't just release the money right away. Like, we have a very stringent process to make sure that everybody's purchase or the item that they're selling is safe in our hands. So yeah, I take a lot of pride in the fact that experience really helped me hone in on how to be more in the industry for people to really help and be flexible with.
Cole, I think we need to get our shit together, Cole. Like, hearing this story, Nicole, I think you have a great storytelling skills. I was just amazed just listening to you. So, like, do more.
Thank you. I will preface, my father has been a radio show host in Los Angeles pretty much my whole life. So unfortunately, I probably have some of his ham personality, but maybe it's okay. Like, maybe one day I'll do radio with him. Who knows?
There you go. It'll be the next career.
Yeah, the next one.
I mean, I'd love to know, us in the screen printing world, we go to a trade show, we check out a $110,000 machine that we would love to have, and then either we end up upside down on it, or we realize it's the wrong fit, so we need to get a different piece of equipment. And I think we almost never understand what anything's worth on the used market. I actually remember I picked up a Rock U for 15 grand cash once because the guy had no idea how to get rid of it. And I was like, I will give you cash. And no one else knew how to give him cash. And everyone else was like, seller finance me, whatever. And I was like, here's 15 grand, walk away. And then I had to figure out getting a flatbed truck and all this stuff to go pick it up. So what does that look like on your end? Like, what should people expect? But also, what is essentially like a good deal when you're selling equipment to a fairly niche market?
Honestly, it's all going to depend on the equipment type, the age of the equipment, the condition of the equipment, what your lane is on it. A lot of the equipment that you see online, even that isn't represented by anyone but a seller, a lot of that stuff is sitting under a loan that you might not have any idea about as a purchaser. And if that seller doesn't take your cash that you gave them when you purchased that and pay off that loan and get it free and clear, you're sitting on somebody else's equipment that could technically get repoed out of your facility at some point. So there's dangers involved in this too that a lot of people don't see. Regarding equipment, Now, it depends on the brand. I would say there's like a top three brand in terms of holding asset value. Rock R and MHM are really good at holding their asset value in depreciation. Now, when it comes to depreciating capital equipment, it works on a 5-year tax depreciation schedule, in which it basically depreciates about 15% per year. Then you have to include what the condition is and where we're at with mileage, right? So kind of like a car, we're really kind of doing an overall like Kelley Blue Book check on the car. Now, when it comes to that, the whole purpose of that is to be realistic with a seller. Hey, your equipment is really it's depreciating to X. And honestly, with the way it looks, it's only going to value to Y. Or it's also about making sure that there isn't overinflation in the market, right? Some people will think that when they buy a brand new home or when they have a home and they've, put 100,000 into their home or something, that home that they bought for 300 grand is now 1.1 million. And it's like, well, yeah, but it actually appraises to like 500,000, right? Well, it's the same thing when it comes to your business assets. These pieces of equipment are depreciating assets for your business. You use them every day to procure profit, right? And so when you're seeing them on the used market and you're buying something, let's say direct for $100,000 and you've used it for a year, well, at a year, it's not going to depreciate a whole lot. So let's say after a year, you need to get rid of your equipment. Something's come up, you've changed, your plans, life's changed, you got to move out of this business, whatever it is, life happens. But at a year, it hasn't depreciated enough for it to be valuable on the used market. So what I mean by that is, as a seller, the reality is you're too close to the MSRP of brand new retail pricing. And then you have your manufacturers that are also trying to directly sell somebody that brand new unit, and they have their margins of wiggle room that they can come down on their prices, right? That might get to the 10 to 15%. And all of a sudden, that press that's only 1 year old that you're hoping you can retain $90,000 out of it because you only paid 100 grand last year. Well, that manufacturer might sell that for 89,000 brand new to somebody today just to make sure that, they get that deal. And it's a competitive market. So, in situations like that, it's kind of a catch-22 for sellers. If it's too new, it's kind of, you're going to take a hit. That's the reality of it to get out of it. So some people will be like, you know what, I don't need to take this hit right now. I'm going to keep going. This just gave me good perspective. I'm going to do X, Y, Z different to change my production around and keep going, right? Other people are like, I have to get out of this loan no matter what. I have to shut down my warehouse. So what's the reality? What do I need to sell this at? And my loan, by the way, when I bought it for 100 grand, is actually at 120, and I've made payments on it, but because of interest, it's sitting at like 105. Where can you sell it? And so the reality is you're going to lose money if you invest in brand new equipment that's 6 figures or whatever in very expensive equipment, but you can't maintain business for more than 2 years. 2 years is a really hard mark for most businesses. Like if you can make it past 2 years, I think they say, then you're on to the 5-year. But those first 2 years are really critical in business. And so it's really advantageous when people do look at used equipment that are new in the business world or don't have established credit yet in the business world. And they're honestly looking at saving their cash flow. They're looking at minimizing their expenditure to see what they can make and actually start banking and profitability wise. So it's going to be about what is out there and what the year is and what the price point is. So that same 100 grand, let's say you bought that same press 5 years ago. Well, it depreciated on a 5-year tax depreciation schedule. It's come down now, and it's probably going to be about $45,000 to $55,000 when you go to resell it. Well, you've been paying your loan off for the last 5 years, and now you only owe like $25,000 to the bank. Well, guess what? Our company is going to pay your portion to the bank with you, clear your loan out, and then you get the remaining balance of all the final funds there because your equipment held value. You paid your stuff down and it depreciated a lot. So it really depends on the seller, where they're at. financially, what their motives are, why they need to move, and how aggressive they want to be. Because if they're under a lien at 105 and their equipment's only worth 80, that means they're going to have to come to the table with an extra 20 grand with our company that provides the final balance, right? But they're going to have to come to the table to actually satisfy that lien and make everything free and clear. And that is stuff that is really important to us as a company, that we have visibility into the liens. We are able to clear those liens for people. We'll be clearing a lien. We're doing a tear down starting tomorrow. We'll be clearing that lien by tomorrow afternoon. It's things like that where, we give both buyer and seller the security that they need, that like, okay, good. That loan's off my back. Okay, great. I have new equipment coming in. It's not under a loan, and this is awesome. They basically replenish any of the parts that were needed, things like that. So I don't know if I answered your question appropriately, but.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think looking at the buyer side, for somebody who actually has cash, or potentially you guys have deals for financing, but what do you think is the equipment to actually be looking at right now? I know that I've heard from a lot of screen printers that they're limiting their max number of colors because they're going DTF on, high color counts. So then they're more interested in grabbing 2 4-color autos and then high quality output DTF instead of grabbing a 14-color auto, for example. What are you seeing on the seller side as the best deals and the best way to position yourself now?
Well, I would say that the market has been saturated for quite some time between high interest rates that we've had, and a lot of sellers that are choosing now to retire or now to merge with another company or to fully, get bought out. That's happening kind of left and right across the board. I would honestly say that when it comes to where the industry is at right now with color count and stuff, it's always going to be those 8-color 10 stations, 8-color 12 stations that are really the synergy of somebody starting out or adding just an additional press in production. We just need a quick 8-color in the back, right? Now, we have clients on both sides of the spectrum, so it's really hard for me to answer this on a just level playing field, I would say. But, when it comes to your startup shops right now, we have a lot of startup shops, a lot of them. And I'm very pleasantly surprised, because I started as a manual printer. So to see other manual printers taking this step right now is very bold. And I'm proud to see it, because it means that textile is still going to continue the way forward. Now, DTF has definitely come into play, and it will be here to stay. It's an additional revenue stream for a ton of shops out there, and they're utilizing it. They're being very strategic about it. So you have shops that are like, hey, I no longer need this 14-color auto because I just bought these 2 DTF machines, and that's what we want to move forward with. But I think that it's really, again, it's based on the shop's needs. Who's your clientele? What's your volume? What's your overall quality that you guys are able to output, screen versus digital? Some of these DTF units out there, they're very beta still to me. Their feel is still not there. Now, there's other ones that I'm seeing where it's getting there, but a lot of the ones that are out on the market today are literally the same exact machine from a different vendor that is powder coated a different color or called it something different. So everybody's shopping the same thing. It's just, who do you want to buy it from? And I don't mean any disrespect by any of that to any of the vendors selling DTF either, because we're asked to sell DTF all the time, or do you guys have DTF? And I understand that this is definitely a department, right? It's like embroidery and screen print. Well, it's screen print and DTF kind of thing, going hand in hand. But we just sold a 14-color 16 station about a month ago to a very large commercial shop. Those are the shops that are going to come for those shops that are mostly established, or the small business owner that has 1 to 2 autos already, but is really looking for additional flexibility. Those will sit with us for about 45 to 60 days before they sell. So on the market, our general turnaround time is about that time anyways, 45 to 65 days of somebody going and looking at stuff, seeing if it's right for their business, talking to their business partners, looking at their electrical specs, all of that stuff. And then they pull the trigger. So again, I didn't mean to beat around the bush on your question. It's just a hard question for me to answer because for what I'm doing, I'm seeing it on all sides of the spectrum of, yes, we're using DTF, but we're not going to stop screen printing. And I think that that's a big thing that people are missing right now. If you've been in screen printing for a long time and you value the craft of screen printing, or you value the quality that you're able to output, or you have a great team and you don't want to lose that team, a lot of people are more in line with maybe outsourcing their DTF and bringing DTF in to heat press it, but maybe not bringing in the machine itself, right? So there's just it's just kind of like a where's your business at? What are you trying to do? If your business is in the middle of nowhere and it's really hard to get staffing, we're seeing people that are like, I can't even get anybody to run this auto. I need to shut this auto down. I'm just going to DTF. So kind of stories all across the board there.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean about the DTF machines being a bit of a struggle. And also there's issues that aren't nearly as easy to manage. And sometimes they're more technical to actually fix the errors. I wonder, with all the large print-on-demand services, are you currently doing any selling of 2-year-old Cornettes or Brother GTX print farms or anything like that where people are dealing with the digital side? Or are you pretty much solely doing the screen right now?
So I've been approached ever since I started Embellisher. Hey, can you help me sell this Cornette? Hey, can you help me sell this Brother GTX, this Storm, this whatever? They've all come at me, and I have tried to take looks at all of this to be as fair as possible to even these sellers that are like, honestly, a lot of them are desperate, wanting somebody to help them move this unit. But to be totally frank with you, digital is extremely finicky. It's not something that I can personally put our stamp of approval of Embellisher behind and say, hey, we have all the confidence in this digital unit moving forward for you, purchaser. And that's where our integrity comes into play, where until I know that I can even make partnerships with some of the manufacturers that produce this kind of equipment to be able to get the parts out of them, to be able to know how to install, to maybe even have their teams install and train. Without their partnership, I cannot represent that kind of equipment in good faith. So I unfortunately turn it down.
So how does that work on the auto side? If it is a 5-year-old Rock, is there like a deal with Rock in place where there's extended warranties available to add to the purchase price?
No. So it's an Embellisher warranty that we add. So we have, when it comes to deals, I wouldn't say it's a deal. It's a partnership with Rock US. In terms of, we are servicing Rock equipment, and we're making sure that Rock equipment stays here in America, because a lot of this equipment, as it ages out, older cars and such, those will get exported down into Latin America pretty frequently, pretty regularly. And so this is a premium brand, and M&R is a premium brand too. It's just that M&R has been in the US a lot longer than when Rock started dotting the US in, the early 2010 area. And so with Rock, we have the partnership for all the parts. So, on anything that is deemed necessary for replacement or repair, upon our operational inspection that we do when we send our technician in for teardown, we will order those parts. We will send them direct to the purchaser's site for installation, and our contract technician is going to install those upon your installation to ensure that all of those parts that we said, hey, this isn't great. Hey, that's not, we want to make sure that you have a nice new knob there. We're kind of, for lack of a better term, slightly reconditioning these presses. I don't want to say we're refurbishing them. We are not refurbishing all these presses, but we have started kind of doing a certified program. So we did just replace like the heart and brain of a press. We replaced a lot of the print heads of the press. So we are taking it to the next level with our services, but it's only because we have the ability to work with some awesome contract technicians that know how to do this equipment and have been trained on this equipment. But we also have the ability to purchase this stuff for our clients, so they don't have to deal with the headaches of dealing with the manufacturer. For us, screen print isn't the only thing we do. We deal with auto reclaim. We'll deal with laser LTSs, folding lines, embroidery machines. Eventually we want to get into possibly like flatbed and stuff, but I have to make sure that we grow sustainably at Embellisher so we can really service the customer the right way and not take on too much. And then, someone's experience suffers greatly. That's not our goal because we're moving around other people's junk, for lack of a better term. I mean, realistically, it's not glamorous. It is, you have a really good piece of equipment. This has been great for your business. Here's the value of it. It's going to be great for this guy's business over here. Here's what he's going to pay for it. And we're going to make sure that it's in good order between, point A and point Z. Get it installed. That guy's now printing up and running, and his business just added the other auto. So it's just more of us providing the overall services.
Yeah. Hey, that's amazing. Nicole, one thing you mentioned earlier that it kind of stuck in my mind, somebody bought a press through a rug, and that's how your story started. Like they called you and you picked up the press or you facilitate the sale, right?
Yeah.
What right now you've been running Embellisher for a few years now. Like what are you seeing in terms of like mistake people are making like around equipment? Like both on the buyer side and the seller side. Like are shops moving too fast with equipment, like filling up their warehouse and then they get stuck, they can't fill the press? Or are some shops just like taking it too slow and potentially like missing out on business? Like what
Totally.
mistakes are you seeing and how is Embellisher even like trying to address that?
Yeah, I mean, well, we see mistakes all the time. First and foremost, I would say on a seller side, sellers tend to think that I paid $100,000 for this 3 years ago. It should be worth $110,000 today. It should have appreciated. So that's the first and biggest mistake I would say, is that a lot of times you have emotional sellers on your hands of, but this is what they don't necessarily equate to how much money the company has made in that year on that exact piece of equipment, right? That piece of equipment probably already made that company possibly that $100,000 that year. And so it's really about kind of bringing people to what the numbers show. Numbers don't lie, right? The numbers make sense. And in sense, I mean dollars, like they make money. So you have to understand the numbers of your equipment and not necessarily get involved with but it's not like you souped it up. It's not like you added exhaust to the equipment, lifted it on, put it on a, big cool truck and stuff. You wrapped it. Like it doesn't just get better. It's been used and abused in somebody's shop. So I think that that's the first mistake, is sellers will tend to be like, I'm not selling it for that. I'm going to hold on to it and sell it myself. Well, then you watch them try and sell it themselves for a good 6 months and keep their price. And what they do is they burn out the market on their equipment. Everybody's seen it at a certain price. They don't even have the wherewithal to talk to anybody and tell them, oh, well, you have single phase. Well, this is 3-phase. Well, I guess your amps would have to be, well, I don't know. Would you need a buck booster? They don't have the time. You're a business owner. Do you have time to negotiate with someone on that piece of equipment in your shop? Or do you actually want those next 6 months back of your life where you're sitting there on Facebook trying to, figure out how to sell something? And then you're going to end up back in my inbox, because trust me, guys, 9 times out of 10, somebody ends up right back in my inbox months later saying, hey, I'm now ready to sell. And guess what happens? It's depreciated more. Like that is what happens. So, in the reality, I think it's, that's where I say it's an emotional thing of like, no, I want to get more money. And I can understand that. We all want to get more money out of everything that we put money into, but there's a price people are willing to pay for things too.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like one key. And then in purchaser side, I would say we have purchasers that will sit. I've had one for a year who needs a press every single day. And these are just people that are like, I need this, I need it now. And then they just kind of get cold feet, and it's a big investment. It's a scary investment for a lot of people. There's fear involved in a loan. What does this mean? What am I on the hook for? Now the loan is more money than what the package is, because it is going to be more money than what the package, purchase price is, because you have interest, right? What I try and do, and what the Embellisher team, what I like implore our team to do, is really teach and train and tailor to people, because I think a lot of people don't understand that you're wasting time on building business credit. So one day when you do have this loan, if you started out early and you have this loan going already and you haven't been in business for 2 years yet, well, the second you hit 2 years in business and you've been paying a loan, these banks are all of a sudden be like, hey, Cole, hey, Gavin, we noticed that you paid everything on time. You guys have been in business for 2 years. We'd love to approve you for $250,000 now. And you're like, what? I struggled for like $38K like a couple years ago. And it's because you built business credit. So I think it's really like removing fear out of people, because what they do is while they stall and while they wait and while they print on their manual press, because I did it for years. I bought 3 manual presses, you guys, before I ever bought an auto because I was scared of an auto payment. I was scared of it. I didn't know any better. And so I just was like, well, I'll just add another manual. Like, no, that's not the equation. Not for profitability, at least. Not if you're trying to run this as an actual operation for a business, right? The business needs to be able to do volume. You need to be able to handle that volume. And so in that, you're wasting profit over those 6 months or that year where you're struggling with this decision and you're burning the midnight oil, you're printing 14 hours a day, you don't have a work-life balance, and you can't get home to the wife or you can't get home to the husband because you're literally on your press all day. You are literally breathing the business in a certain way. Well, in that time frame, you probably lost the amount of money that package was. And that package that you were looking at purchasing that could have maybe been a big pill to swallow, but really kind of exponentially skyrocketed your growth. That whole thing is where you drill down on how much do you cost? How much do you cost on press? Are you free? Are you the cheapest person you ever had? Right? Like that is where you make your money back. And so those are the kind of things where, I can't talk people out of fear. If they're fearful or if it's not the right time or they just don't have the cash, they don't have the cash. Like, some people would prefer to pay cash over financing. And I can understand that financing rates are high. But if you have the opportunity, it's always a savvy business move to look at the used market to see what's out there, because you can go get a quote from for brand new anything. You can go get a brand new car today, right? But you might not find that same exact car used for a fraction of the cost. And now your business has saved money. You're able to take off the ground running. You're able to hire that extra employee or pay for overtime or cut back. All of a sudden you get Fridays off because everything is moving faster in the shop because of the automation. So there's a lot of blinders I think people have on both seller and buyer side. And I don't anticipate that they just know all this stuff. This is what all of our learned experiences that create why we feel a certain way or, the fears of both selling or buying. So we try our best to remove that and really give you the black and white brass tacks of here's what the package is, here's what it's going to do, here's what it could do for your business. But also tell me about your business, because that might not be the right package for you. You might be looking at something that's way too big, way too overpriced or overkill for what you need, right? Or you may be looking at something because of fear of money that maybe $10,000 more gets you into something that for the next 5 years, you're just making tons of money on because you decided to go up in color count or something. So this is not stuff that, you're going to find on Facebook Marketplace. People aren't going to talk to you about this. They're just going to post something and here's the price. Are you going to pay for it? Right. And so I think it's more about research. It's about networking. It's about who's in your network that you can rely on to ask these questions to too.
Yeah, that initial jump from a manual to an auto is such a crazy learning curve. Just figuring out what necessities you need in your building, finding out that your dryer runs on gas, but you don't even have a gas line, potentially moving. Sometimes you're on like the 3rd floor. So how do you even get it up the stairs? Like those kind of problems that you face in the beginning are a nightmare. But when you finally get it installed and you see that you were killing yourself for 3 to 500 units a day, and all of a sudden you're doing 2,000 to 3,000 units a day with the identical staff. It's such a massive shift, that first press.
It's a massive, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, if you track metrics, which I hope everybody is somehow track something. But like, honestly, if you track it, your money that you just retained on that same job you did a month ago on the manual, but now you just moved over to the auto. It's like, did I just retain 80% of the profitability of this job? I've only been retaining 15% over here, but a lot of manual shops don't look at those things because they're so focused on the operations. They're not necessarily focused on the bottom line. And I think that that's where my experience in running like the commercial, print facility that I owned, that's where I had to run bottom lines. I'm a screen printer. I could get on press if I had to, but I ran everything with reporting all day long. I needed every report under the sun that made sense, but we put a dollar amount per press that needed to hit per shift. That press was required to hit a certain dollar amount per shift, and the staff knew it, and we gave them the tools to be involved for the transparency, so that way we could have everybody involved in our bottom line, so we could always hit that, and then anything above that, bonuses. Let's go. It was great.
And I want to ask you about that part of your career. So I've been doing like some consulting calls with fairly small shops, and basically what I always hear is, how do I get contract work? I want contract work. Just flood me. Give me 2,000 units a week and all of my problems will go away. And I'm always like, A, you're not ready at all. You can't handle it. And B, the contract work is fairly low margin work.
Very.
So you have to be fully set up for it.
Yeah.
You, having run those sort of deals with very large partnerships, what did you see as like a successful way to approach that? And why do you think these small shops won't even get the opportunity to have the conversation with them?
I don't think these small shops understand, and it's because contract is just thrown around. It's a word that's really like kind of flamboyant in the industry, right? But contract is really meant, if you're trying to make money off contract, you have to be volume. You have to have the amount of machinery that you can make money off contract, or it doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to get contracts. Of course, I think that it's always great to have supplemental income that can amortize the overhead of your warehouse, that can hold you through those really, slow times in the middle of winter when you're like, okay, we don't have retail work coming in, but that one contract is sending us XYZ and it's low margin, but it keeps your staff working. And you want to retain your staff. That's the biggest, to me, that's one of the biggest equations of all of our businesses is, our people, right? And so when it comes to contract, it's a real double-edged sword. Unless you are able to work with many different contractors out there, and I'm talking brokers, when you're talking contract work, you're typically talking to a broker. And the brokers are going to be brokering for, it's the same thing. They'll broker for sports licensing, corporate tech markets, concerts, all of that kind of stuff is part of the broker world of contract. But it's pennies on the dollar. So unless you are doing like what I said, putting a dollar amount that your press is required to do per day and ensuring that your team is also logging that that's happening per day and being able to track your payroll COGS versus your shipped revenue and really like utilize that as a rolling monthly report, it's going to be really hard for you to ever see if you are profitable and where your efficiencies lie. In contract work, it's such meager margins that you have to have these kind of metrics so you can know when you need to hire, when you need to fire, when it's time to cross train, when you need overtime, when you need to cut shifts. That is very important because you have to be very stringent on how you operate, or it's very, very easy to lose money quickly that day. So yeah, contract is not for everyone, but yeah.
She's good, right, Cole? She's really
I know
good.
it's incredible how deep she is in the industry. I mean, I didn't really truly, I knew of you for like years, but I didn't really truly meet you until Printing United. And it's really interesting to see your insight from like this completely different side of it that I wasn't necessarily a part of. And it's really impressive.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Nicole,
yeah.
we've actually had booths right next to each other at a trade show. One thing I have picked up from you is like your booth look amazing, by the way. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
The
thank
design and your booth. And I've sent out. For some reason, I'm part of your email list.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for being on that. I appreciate it. I hope I don't annoy you.
but you do actually really good marketing, and actually, I think your artistic vibe is really cool.
Thank
Maybe you
you.
could talk a little bit about that and like what's some of the things that kind of drives you and makes who you are. To like
Uh,
close out our
yeah,
podcast.
absolutely. No, I appreciate that. Well, I went to UCSD and UCLA for art criticism and theory, which is a
Mhm.
really fancy way of saying art history. And in art history, um, I'm a lover of color and of brushstrokes and of like abstract art is probably my favorite thing ever. And I really like makes like I'm very passionate about the art world. And so in owning something, it's your world, right? It's your world to create. And I think that there's amazing tools out there that help my lack of artistic ability, because I don't have the artistic ability. I have an artistic eye or a design eye, but they help me in kind of facilitating what I see in my brain. And so when it comes to marketing and such, I love bold. I really like to emulate some of the big brands, the timeless brands that have been out there for years, centuries even in certain formats. That's why Embellisher has been very black and white. And then there's a personality involved in Embellisher, which is where the color palette comes in, right? And so for me, our marketing it's challenging to keep up with. It's challenging to be relevant, but I'm finding that if I'm just me, when I'm just me, it actually works out the best instead of trying to force or trying to copy or look at like, okay, this manufacturer is doing it this way. Maybe I should do it that way. And when I take a step back and I sit up in my jumbo jet and I look down over my business, that's when I realize it's my business. I can navigate it anywhere I want to go across the entire globe and beyond. And so when it comes to design, that stuff just kind of really flows through me, but not easily. I have to be in the mood. If I'm not in the mood, you ain't getting marketing out of me. You haven't seen me on or Instagram for a week because I'm not in the mood to do it because it's hard. It's hard. And I don't necessarily want to be fake about it. I want
Yeah,
to be as real as possible.
yeah.
But I appreciate that our branding has been something that it pushes me forward. And my motto is to constantly improve. Our theme this year is being a redwood forest, cultivating a redwood forest at Embellisher. And that means like setting our roots really deep in the ground. And redwood trees grow really tall and they withstand this test of time and fire and all of the weather changes that there are. And so when it comes to branding, I think of that too. I think about how do we stand the course of time so I don't have to change it a ton. So we're synonymous with our brand. So people recognize us and one day we're as recognizable as, anything, a CarMax or, just a brand, Zillow, you know us. So Embellisher. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you having fun? It sounds like you're having a lot of fun.
I'm having a great time, honestly. It's not easy. I'm a tired mom and wife, and we've got six amazing employees right now, and from going from just me to six, I feel like I could probably use six more for the amount of growth rate we've had, but I wouldn't change it for anything right now. I'm 38 and I feel like right now the sky's the limit and I can only hope and pray um that it becomes something that many people can work at and I can facilitate a very wide range of services and support to the industry.
Very cool. Thank you so much for your time. Where
Yeah.
can people find you and what do you have coming up next? I know you're going to be at Fort Worth.
We'll be at Fort Worth. We will be exhibiting at Fort Worth and Long Beach. And we are actually throwing, I'm just going to soft launch this now, a cruise, the industry's first
Oh, wow.
cruise in July. It's going to be called
Okay.
Salty Teas. Yes, Salty
Okay.
Teas 2025. It'll be the first of Embellisher experiences.
Yeah.
Real quick, on Embellisher experiences, I was lucky enough to take about 50 clients with me to Rock, Portugal for a week. These clients were all direct competitors with each other, did not like getting off the plane and seeing so-and-so is standing here. Why is that person here? And by the end of the week of being around each other and being able to connect on a deeper level of business owners across the country and being in a different atmosphere, a totally different country. It was the most unique, rewarding experience for myself and for all of these owners that came, I believe. And so for us, we just decided let's mix some pleasure and some awesome networking. So on Salty Teas Cruise 2025, it's a Virgin Voyages cruise. It'll go out of Miami. It's a 4-night cruise from Miami, Key West, Bimini, and back. And it will be shops speed dating each other on board. We will also have a beach party in Bimini and some really cool stuff coming. But we are starting to book cabins now. And we actually have 8 people that have signed up in the last week. And I haven't even marketed it yet. So if you go to embellisher.com and go to our resources tab, you will find our Embellisher experiences right there. And from there, we're just working on our proprietary appraisal software, making sure that eventually here soon, you'll be able to go on to embellisher.com. You'll be able to put in your own equipment with a drop-down menu, year, and you'll be able to get out a value, just like it's Kelley Blue Book or CarMax or Auto Trader. So that is our future right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that I'm going to want a cabin. Gavin, it's so close to you in Miami. You got to go too, buddy.
There's sea terraces available. There's tons of different cabins available.
Very nice. Awesome.
Yes. What's the date?
It's July 9th through the 13th of 2025. So I'll be taking a preliminary one. I'm calling it the preliminary one to my parents because they need to watch my child in November to map it all out. But I'm excited. I'm not trying to, it has nothing to do with sales. I could give 2 shits about that. I want people to enjoy each other and have fun, and figured it'd be different atmosphere than the standard old stuffy trade show. So
yeah, totally. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks again for coming on. It was awesome talking to you, and I'll see you in 3 weeks.
See you in 3 weeks. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.